Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jarrett and Val again. As you've seen in our intro, this trip to Daytona Beach was my anniversary gift to Jarrett. We've been married 20 years and
I don't know why she's put up with me that long, but she has.
Our anniversary is in July and we celebrated last July 2021 and went out to a nice dinner. Jarrett bought me a beautiful diamond necklace and I bought him the tickets to the race, which is a pretty awesome gift, I think.
Yeah, she outdid me on that one. I will give you that. So
plans had changed because at the time we still lived in Kentucky, and we thought we'll just drive, no big deal, driving from Kentucky to Daytona. But who knew in those 8 months that life would change for us, and we moved to Idaho, which you've probably seen if you'd followed any of our videos. And so then, of course, we had to book tickets to fly out, and the trip became a whole nother experience. Forgive me if I sound a little stuffy. I've been under the weather because of this trip, I think. Went from 80 back to 20.
Back to 40.
And then Idaho pulled a Kentucky move on us and got up to 50. And now we're back to 20. Starting to act like Kentucky around here. So my sinuses are not cooperating. I apologize. Our trip over here was a long story, but I'll make it very short. American Airlines screwed up our trip, and we ended up...
Twice in one day.
Yeah, we ended up on JetBlue, which was actually turned out to be a good experience. So thank you to JetBlue for getting us to Daytona, because when there's a major sporting event, apparently getting thousands of people to one city is not an easy task.
And we weren't even going to that city. We were flying in somewhere else, and it was still kind of a...
Well, we flew into Orlando, which was an hour away, but I'm sure that was probably the major airport to getting there. But
Yeah, I guess.
either way, we got there, and we had a blast.
So it's race day, and we get up thinking we need to get to the track super early. Parking's going to be a mess, or it's going to take us forever to get in, and none of that was true.
Here we go, getting up at 6 a.m. to go to a 2:30 race. Let's see how long it takes us to get 5 miles down the road. So far, traffic's not too bad on International Speedway. It's 8:07 a.m. That's probably why. And is that the speedway there?
That is the speedway there. So we got there and we pulled into the racetrack. We actually ended up in, surprisingly, the RV parking lot.
It's like a camping party. Which is what we totally would have done. You guys know this. But coming all the way from Idaho, I think we made the right choice this time. But the party has begun.
Imagine that. And they turned us around, and then I found another parking spot across this road, basically from the RV parking place, but more or less behind the Home Depot.
Well, we got a $50 spot right here across the street from where we were by the campers, and we're back here in the lot behind the Home Depot. 50 bucks. Yeah. Jarrett's out here window shopping, walking through all the RVs. It's pretty fun, I gotta tell you. We wish we would have done this. However, if we didn't, we wouldn't have been able to stay at the shores and ride the elevator with Chris Myers and see Brad Kozlowski at lunch.
And I think we were in the track at like 8:30, 8:45.
It took no time at all. We were shocked.
Yeah.
We were. That's not to say that might be your experience.
Right. No, we were pleasantly surprised. Then we got there and we're like, oh crap, it's not even 9 o'clock. Because the race,
now what do we do?
The race starts at 2:30. And so we went straight to the fan zone. Now, this is my first fan zone experience. I've been going to NASCAR races. I've been to a few, like since I was a kid.
Yep, it's like Disneyland.
For adults. And NASCAR does an incredible job with their new fan zone experience, because you can walk in behind the pits, and they've got like this they've got all the garages where all the drivers and cars are, and now they have these windows where you can walk in and kind of look at what they're doing.
This is cool.
Speedway's presented by Advent Health. We're so very happy to have you with us here today on a picture-perfect day for racing as we kick off the 2022 season for the NASCAR Cup Series.
Can we see in there?
Our anthem today is sung by country music superstar Trace Atkins. Luke Combs is performing the pre-race concert about 1:45 or so.
Is Kyle in there?
No, his car's out.
Kyle, where are you at?
Here, check this picture out.
What picture? Oh, that's nice. It's a nice shot.
A big catwalk you see.
Jared's like a kid in a candy store.
I am.
The fan zone. This is cool.
And you can kind of check out the cars and kind of the inside of the garage, and then you can go on top of the garage and you can see basically the whole track, especially when there's not very many people there. And you see the drivers and all the haulers and the cars coming in and out, and they're getting them ready for inspection. And it's just really a neat experience, and it kind of gives you that up close and personal experience.
Like behind the scenes. It was really cool. Here's Brad. We saw Brad at lunch yesterday. He doesn't know it. He doesn't know who he was sitting by. Him and his crew were having a lunch meeting at the shores yesterday. Can't really see Brad's car too well, can we? Number 6, Ford. Good luck, Brad.
It's not like you're spending the money, the big money for the pit passes where you're walking around the track. So it's kind of like a happy medium. And you know that the drivers will acknowledge you, and the people, you know, if you catch them right, if they're not busy. But it's kind of a neat experience. We got there super early, so it was really nice when we got there because we were able to kind of just.
We got to kind of just mosey around before most of the crowd got there,
Right.
which was nice. But I feel like maybe more of the action happened closer to the race.
I don't know. I mean, they're getting ready. I mean, they're busy with their cars and going through, you know.
Yeah, we kind of did the fan zone area first, then went into the field and crossed over.
Justin Haley will be behind the wheel of the 31 car, and AJ Allmendinger and organization's past success on road courses, the opportunity to grab a playoff berth would be theirs for the taking.
Oh, we got to sign the track. That was cool. So while we were walking around, just kind of, you know, experiencing the atmosphere of Daytona, there were tons of people like just signing the finish line, and we're like, we've got to do this. The track is so slanted. I didn't realize how big of a slant this was. This is dangerous.
All sales are reversible online. Buy or sell us from menu or purchase your 50/50 tickets now at Daytona5050.com. And 50% of jackpots to that may be magnets of tickets and allocation. This is also
Ready to sign it? Borrow someone's Sharpie. Look, they're sharing.
Michael McDowell is going to become the 2021 Daytona 500 champion. Who will be the 2022 Daytona 500 champion?
So we borrowed someone's Sharpie and got to sign the track. I thought that was pretty cool.
Don't worry if you get there and you don't have a Sharpie. They gladly sell them at all the little salesy places for like $1 or no, I think it's $2 for a Sharpie.
Yeah, and I was really shocked at like how slanted and steep the track actually was.
William
my mind, I'm thinking, I mean, wow, how do these guys do this, first of all? And secondly, I'm thinking, tomorrow we're going to ride this track and I'm about to freak out.
If you're not a NASCAR fan, the banking on the where the finish line is like 18 degrees. And I was thinking, yeah, okay, this is pretty steep. And then somebody said, well, the corners are 31 degrees. And so, which the corners, I actually drove the car on our experience, but you don't realize how steep they are because if you're not going around fast enough, the car wants to drive down the hill essentially, and you don't. It gives you kind of a sense of appreciation when you're out there walking around and what these guys actually do. So
we are definitely going to show you our NASCAR driving experience in the next video.
Again, there's not a lot of people there. People are filling in at this point, and so they have this catwalk deal where the drivers come out, and we got to talking, and Valerie's like, well, let's. I mean, we got right up close in front, and she's like, well, let's sit here, and
yeah,
so,
right behind the rope at the very end of the catwalk where like all the camera crew is going to be. And I thought, well, this is a great spot, but
3 hours.
3 hours.
It was cool because we got up and we kind of took shifts, if you will. I got up and I went and looked around a little bit because I was looking for it was like really sunny that day, and I wanted a hack because
we were about to get fried.
I got to the top up there and I could see the people coming in, and honestly, I wanted no part of that.
I think you brought back chapstick and sunscreen.
We
were like, well, why not just sit here and wait? Because what else are we going to do? We kind of already seen it all. And then the way it worked out, we didn't realize this, but we also had tickets to a Luke Combs concert. But we didn't realize what that meant was just that Luke Combs was going to sing before the race.
Like 3 songs or 4
yeah,
songs.
and there was a stage set up, but it was like all of a sudden when we were at the end of the catwalk, the stage was like way over there. And we're like, well, maybe we can do the catwalk thing because there's this list in the fan zone that tells you the times of everything that's happening. And it seemed that we had a little bit of time to watch the drivers come out on the catwalk and then go over and see Luke Combs.
Correct.
Didn't work out that way.
That was incorrect information.
And we thought, too, like once the crowd started piling in on us, we're like, there's no way we're going to make it over there. So we did miss seeing like Luke Combs with our own eyes. We just watched from the screen from 50 yards away.
We could hear it, we just couldn't really see it.
Luke, you did an awesome job, but
Yeah.
we didn't make it over there.
And he is apparently a man after my own heart because he was drinking a Miller Lite the whole time he was on stage. So
He splashed it around. It was a party.
yeah, we had a good time.
The fan zone's definitely a party.
And then so that went off actually before the drivers came out.
Yeah.
And then which we had that completely backwards. And then the drivers come out, and that was a really cool experience because we were 5 feet away from them.
Oh, that was so cool. kids got to like, reach out their hands. Yeah, I thought it was cool for the kids. It was cool for us too, but like the kids really were excited.
At the end of the catwalk, some of those kids were getting autographs.
But it was kind of cool to see them, come out, get off the catwalk, and get in the back of the truck. Like you see that on TV from a different perspective. So it was cool.
If you're into racing, and even if you're not into racing, I would recommend just going
at least once
for the experience.
And the rockets red there, the bombs bursting in it, Katie proved through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home
Let's hear it for Chase Atkins for voice of our national anthem.
Start your engine!
Yeah, because we've been fans a long time, and honestly, being married to Jarrett 20 years, he kind of got me into watching NASCAR in our earlier years of marriage, and so most of our favorite drivers are retired, and so even the newer ones, I only know a couple of them, and so I was cheering for someone who wasn't even driving, which was Ryan Newman, and Brad Keselowski, because we saw him at the shores and thought that was really cool. Of course, we didn't get to talk to him, don't get excited, but we did see him, and I thought, okay, so I get to learn about a new driver that I wasn't familiar with, and he seemed nice when we, saw him from a distance, and so I thought, I'll cheer for Brad, and he almost won.
I'm not a huge Keselowski fan, but I've always kind of kept up with him. I've really kind of followed him since he drove the Navy car in the Busch races. Shoot, that was 20 years ago, 15 years ago. We drove for Dale Jr. Actually, we hung out in his pits at Kentucky Speedway back when he did all that. And that was a very, very long time ago before he went to the dark side and started driving a Ford. So. car they're running now is that, so was its second race, and they're very different than what, you know, a NASCAR fan would expect. So I, of course, growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, you know, becoming a NASCAR fan in the 90s, and they went to the downforce car of the the late 90s, early 2000s, and then I was really big into NASCAR then. And then when I went to the COT, the Car of Tomorrow, which was like 10 years ago, with the wing, I kind of like lost interest in NASCAR at that point. Then they made the cars better, and the last car I really kind of liked. This is Jared's opinion on NASCAR. This new car, the vote's out, but they're kind of neat looking. They do a really good job. What a lot of people don't understand is all these cars are exactly the same, except they wrap the car with their manufacturer logo, and they do a good job of making them look like whatever they're supposed to look like, even though they're all exactly the same. So they do a good job of that. But the new cars, we'll see.
I heard a lot of opinions during the race, and people talk, because there was a few crashes that race.
Keep losing their wheels.
Kept losing wheels, and I noticed when I went to go get food, which we'll talk about in a minute, the food was a whole nother experience.
Debacle is what it was.
I was standing in line and saw on the screen somebody's tire rolling down the track, and it just kept rolling and rolling. And I thought, who's losing tires? And then it happened again, and I'm like, what's going on? I don't know much about these new cars. I'll let him talk about it. But
Well, what I find funny is their wheels are falling off, and for years they've had 5 lug nuts to get on these cars. Now they have 1, and now we can't keep wheels on. So that was I was like, okay, guys, it's 1 lug nut.
And then other people were talking about maybe the materials, something about that first wreck when someone flipped over. Forgive me, I don't know the driver that flipped.
It was a Wood Brothers car, it was a 21 car. I think it's
21.
Ryan Blaney, I think, drives that one.
Yeah, they were talking about the material on the bottom or something being completely different. I don't
Yeah,
know.
they're all carbon fiber cars now, so they're not even. Used to they made roll cage and the car was more or less aluminum. Now they're all carbon fiber material, so it's a totally different game. That sucker sets real low to the ground. So the hotel we stayed at was like all the Fox Media people, and we was talking to one of the guys that works for Fox, and he was talking about these cars set so low to the ground and they're carbon fiber, and they've got basically skid plates on the bottom of them. So like when Joey Logano had flat tires, he couldn't go anywhere. His car was fine, but as he was just sitting on those skid plates. But it's amazing the amount of money that they have spent on these cars to build these cars. So I think he said one team had $800,000 in their first car.
It's a pretty interesting sport, and if you've really never been to a race, you should go because, again, I'm not like a huge NASCAR fan, but I've watched the sport over the years, and I know a couple of the drivers. I don't know much about the cars, but being there is a totally different experience, and watching them fly around that track, like it's an experience. I mean, it rattles the stadium.
When the races go so much, I think they go so much faster in person than they do on TV.
You definitely develop a little more respect and like admiration for the sport because they're definitely talented.
Oh yeah.
And you're really not sure about like the crowd size and the timing of how to get in line for food. I think it's just a losing battle. You are allowed to bring like a certain size of bag. I would bring water of your own and snacks because if you do hit a line, you're in trouble. And if you're hangry in the 80-degree sun, you're really in trouble. I think I noticed after the first lap, like really, if you've spent the day in the fan zone and you've been there already hours, we did actually eat during that time we were in the fan zone. The line wasn't too bad. It was like 4 hours before the race, but then after that first lap started, we started seeing people get up from their seats, and I thought, I wonder if I should go get something to eat, and I didn't. And 30 laps went by, maybe 30 or 50, before I decided to get up. Big mistake, because I got to the lines and they were it was an hour wait just to get, a hot dog and fries. And I'm not going to lie, I waited a long time, and I'm watching the race from the TV at this point, and I'm thinking, I should just get out of line and go sit with Jarrett and starve because, you pay all this money to go to a race. You don't want to watch it standing in line. And I didn't know how many more laps I was going to miss. So
I eventually got up and went like, where is she?
Yeah, because you don't get good service. But to make a very long story short, I stood in line for an hour And when I got to the front,
I actually come and joined you.
you did come join me, and at one point I left the hot dogs line because it was taking way too long, and I skipped over to just the beer and pretzel line. And I'm like, well, they have Coke. I'll just get a Coke and a pretzel. It'll hold me over.
And so they have
a case of pretzels
spinning,
and they keep refilling them. I'm like, okay, they're refilling them. We get to the line. The guy in front of us orders like 4 or 5 pretzels, and the case is empty. And
son of a...
And all you hear is, pretzels are sold out. And I'm like, son of a... We got away with 2 Cokes. Maybe we bought 3 to have an extra.
No, we bought 2. That's all we bought.
And we get back to our seats and we're like, forget about it. We'll just eat when the race is over.
The guys next to us were awesome to sit next to us. They were sitting in the same seats. And I think they could see us aggravated look on our face when we came back with a Coke.
They passed down a couple beers. We were like, thanks. And they were ice cold too. And I was like, but at this point I've already drank a Coke. And I'm like, Coke and beer, like, just not gonna happen.
I drank a Coke and a beer.
He's hardcore like that. Eventually when the sun started going down, I decide I'm gonna go look for some more food. It's fine. I go up a couple flights of stairs. I'm like, worst case, I'll take a really pretty picture of the track. Maybe I'll get to see the back side of the track, because from our seats you really couldn't see the back side of the track. We had decent seats on turn 4.
Right where they went in the pit road. So.
Yeah, but I think, pro tip, if you're going to go to Daytona, get higher seats so you can see more of the track. I find a Papa John's where the line's like 10 people deep. Well, even 10 people deep, the guy's like, it's going to be 20 minutes. It just seemed like they couldn't feed all of those people.
Well, the race... I think this was the first race they had that's been sold out since COVID.
True.
And there was 100 and some thousand people there.
Yeah.
And so...
In their defense, I mean, we did get a drink and we did get pizza. It just was like...
And we did have
took more time than I wanted it to. I guess the moral of the story is pack snacks. If you're going in the fan zone hours before, just make sure you eat then and just don't even worry about getting out of your seats.
And if you're going to a race, you can always Google the race and you can look up what size bag you can take and they actually let you take a pretty good size bag in. I don't know what the guys next to us had, but it seemed like they had a few cases of beer because they drank the entire race.
They did. And if you sit on the end like we did, good luck if you sat next to someone who's been drinking all day.
Yes.
Because you're just going to keep having to get up and down to let him out to pee.
You know, those rows are like 30 people wide, and so you catch 15 of them coming and going.
Trying to go to the bathroom.
Or get something to eat.
So I'm like, do we sit in the middle next time? That way people aren't passing us to get in and out.
Instead of us being inconvenienced, we can inconvenience everyone.
It just is what it is. Just enjoy it and have a good time. This crowd's getting crazy. You have a good time? All right, so 9 laps to go. Who do you think's going to get it?
Whoever's in first at the end of the race. The number 4 is going to get it.
What?
The number 4 will get it.
Can't hear your announcer.
The number 4.
Number 4? All right, we'll see. 6 laps to go. Brad's in third. Woohoo! And y'all know if you've ever been to a NASCAR race, it seems that most of the wrecks happen the last 3 laps.
Well, yeah, they're like, oh, we got 500 miles to go, so let's just kind of ride around and get these miles. Like, You're like, oh shit, there's like 10 laps to go. Let's get aggressive and crash everybody.
Well, it's like going to a football game. Mm-hmm. Everybody calls timeout the last 5 minutes of the game, and 5 minutes lasts 4 hours.
And that turn 4 is where everybody kind of passes, so they would wad cars up as they'd come around us.
Yeah, it's exciting.
surprisingly, so Valerie's rooting for Keselowski because the car that Keselowski drove last year.
He led the entire race.
He did. He's up front, but the car, the number 2 car, which is the one that Brad drove last year, they put a rookie in. He wins the race.
And congratulations to him. His
Yeah.
name was Austin. Sorry, we
Cedric.
weren't familiar. Is it? We weren't familiar with the rookie, but congratulations to the rookie.
We sat around for 10 or 15 minutes, and then by that point,
Let everybody get out.
I mean, there was still people there trying to get out, but it wasn't like the initial.
Shoulder to shoulder.
And honestly, like getting back to our hotel from where we parked was like we were in our hotel in 20 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. We just got through the RV park, crossed the street again to the Home Depot lot, and the GPS took us a back way. It didn't take us down the main road where the front of the speedway is. And again, we got out of there in 10 minutes.
Yeah,
I was like, what? What just happened?
But still, we're like, wow, this is awesome. So we think we got us something to eat. And
Yeah, so the shores might be the place to stay because if you're coming from the beach to the speedway, it might just be the best way over there. So I don't know.
sorry this video was longer. Next video, also a cool video. We did the NASCAR driving experience. I drove Valley Road. So look forward to that video coming up, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you guys. Be blessed.